Did you catch that sudden jump in the torn N token price? I mean, it shot up over 14%, hit $10.55, and they kind of settled around $9.47 just on July 7th.
Yeah, that wasn't just random market noise.
Right. It was tied directly to this pretty major legal thing, something that really changes how we might look at digital assets, maybe even open source code itself.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into why that Coin Center lawsuit against the U.S. Treasury just got dismissed. It follows Tornado Cash getting taken off the sanctions list back in March 2025. And, well, it seems like a big deal for crypto privacy, maybe the future of open source development, too.
What's really fascinating here, I think, is the core fight. You had the U.S. government trying to sanction code.
Decentralized, immutable smart contracts specifically.
Exactly. Code that. Once it's out there on the blockchain, you can't really change it or, control it in the traditional sense.
And that attempt sparked these huge legal battles, made people ask, what even is property online? How far can the government go?
It all kicked off back in August 2022, remember?
Right, when OFAC, that's the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, put Tornado Cash on the sanctions list.
Their reasoning was pretty stark. They claimed it helped launder over $7 billion.
Including, like $455 million tied to North Korea's Lazarus Group. That got everyone's attention.
Oh, absolutely. And almost immediately, you had major pushback. Lawsuits popped up from Coin Center.
They're that crypto advocacy nonprofit.
Right. And also 6 individual Tornado Cash users who actually got backing from Coinbase.
And their main argument.
That OFAC totally overstepped its authority. Specifically under IEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Because, they argued, these immutable smart contracts, they're just code executing automatically. They aren't property that somebody owns or controls.
Not like a bank account or a car.
Exactly. You can't just seize code running on thousands of computers, right? That distinction was really the heart of the whole legal fight.
So how did the courts handle that argument? It feels pretty fundamental.
Well, it led to some really key rulings. First, in November 2024, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, they sided against OFAC.
Okay.
They ruled the sanctions on the smart contracts themselves were unlawful. Why? Because they agreed, basically, that the code didn't fit the definition of property under IEPA.
Wow, okay, that's big.
Then it kept going. April 2025, a Texas district court blocked OFAC from trying to put the sanctions back on.
And that ruling stuck.
Yep, became final June 28, 2025. So with those rulings in place,
the case kind of resolved itself.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
On July 3rd, Coin Center and the Treasury basically agreed to dismiss the appeal that was heading to the 11th Circuit. It was moot.
And that's what sent the Tor-N token flying. Makes sense now.
But here's where it gets complicated. Even though the sanctions on the protocol, the code itself, are gone.
There's still the issue of the developers.
Exactly. Roman Storm and Roman Semenov, they're still facing serious criminal charges, money laundering, sanctions violations.
Wait, so the code itself is okay, legally speaking, not sanctionable property, but the guys who wrote it are still in trouble. How does that work?
It seems like a real disconnect, doesn't it?
Yeah. Is the legal system trying to say, like, the tool is fine, but how people used it isn't, and the developers are somehow responsible for the misuse?
That seems to be the angle, yes. It really highlights this tough question in decentralized systems. Can you separate the tool from the user? The courts are saying yes for the protocol.
But not for the creators.
For the developers, it seems the focus is on, well, did they know? Did they intend for this? Did they actively help illicit actors? Those questions are still very much on the table.
So it's about the difference between just putting tech out there versus being complicit in its misuse.
Right. And that's a fine line.
Well, Storm's trial's coming up soon, isn't it? July 14th in New York.
That's the date, yes.
And this feels bigger than just Tornado Cash. I mean, what does this mean for anyone developing open source software?
It's a huge concern. If developers can face criminal charges because someone, somewhere, misuses their open code.
Where does that leave innovation? Doesn't it sort of chill the whole idea of open access and building new things?
It certainly could. So if we try to, connect this to the bigger picture, you've got these two sides.
Okay.
On one side, a real win for crypto privacy folks. A legal precedent saying immutable code isn't the same as controllable property for sanctions. That's potentially a blueprint, maybe, for how DeFi gets regulated. Focus on the users, not the unchangeable tools.
Right. Liability shifts away from the tool creator who lost control.
Potentially. But then the other side.
Yeah.
The individuals who created the code are still facing serious legal jeopardy.
The human cost, yeah.
That's a stark reminder of that.
So it really leaves us, and you listening, with this tricky thought to chew on. As this decentralized tech keeps racing ahead, How are our laws going to keep up?
How do we define ownership, control, even IP, for code that's designed to be uncontrollable?
And what does that mean long-term for innovation versus privacy, especially when that line between who creates something and who uses it gets blurrier and blurrier?
Big questions, definitely.